Hello and welcome to the Say Yes Movement podcast with Heather and John, where we help you with your professional and personal growth, helping you say yes to all the scary stuff. Good morning, Heather. How are you today?
I am doing amazing, John. It's so good to be with you today. You and me both know that when we get to the end of the week, it is time to celebrate. Celebrate the impacts, celebrate the people we got to connect with, and celebrate our own successes. So I want to know, what are you celebrating today,
Woo-hoo.
John?
Yeah, it's wow, yeah. Today's Friday. Yes. What am I celebrating today? Today I am. You know what? I don't know why today seems a little bit more challenging. There's a couple of things I tried new this week. So one of the
Ooh.
things I committed to as part of my new 30-day reset, which kicked off on Monday, was to get more weight training into my routine. So I've been doing a little bit, earlier in the week, and yesterday I did like a full weight training type of program to help me become a better triathlete. And today I'm feeling very sore. So I'm celebrating that I put in the extra work. I'm celebrating that I stayed committed to my goals for the month, because one of the things we do as part of the 30-day reset is we create a movement schedule for the week. And I've been, committed to that and following through on that. And it's been good, trying new things. And it's been a long time since I've done any sort of weight training. Uh, it's this is what they call the messy middle, because it hurts a little bit. It's sore. Getting out of bed this morning was like and here I am now, so it's good. I'm celebrating that. What about you, Heather? What are you celebrating this week?
I've got so much to celebrate this week, but for those of you listening, we'd love to celebrate with you as well. So if you are listening live, please put in the comments what you are celebrating, what impact happened this week, so that we can actually feel your energy and celebrate with you. We want to do that. So this week, John, has been a week of red carpet experiences. Right? What is a red
Right.
carpet experience? Well, it's exactly what you'd think. It's truly a red carpet. But we've talked a lot about having an alter ego. And the
Mm,
alter ego is that concept of, taking in all of your personal power and being the best version of yourself. And sometimes you have to pretend that you're someone else. But when you walk down a red carpet, you can't walk normally. You have to walk with your shoulders back, celebrating and just being completely present. And I got to do that this week. Not a real red carpet like at a movie theater, but in a workplace environment. And
mm.
that, imagine your new hire employees get a red carpet experience when they start. What would that do to the rest of their time with you as an employer? What will they tell their friends and family? And that's what I got to experience this week. So I'm celebrating all those that roll out the red carpet to say welcome and let's do this together.
Wow. Wow. That's, yeah. I can only imagine walking into the workplace on day one, and there's this red carpet that you're walking down. It's going to change your entire belief system about what the work system is supposed to look like, right? It's just, wow. It's so incredible.
It's
Wow.
so
That's
incredible.
amazing. I love it. I love it. Wow. Wow. Yeah.
That,
Something to consider.
I
Yeah.
feel like there's more to explore there because, when we think about employee engagement, and this is something that many companies are actually struggling with in the workplace right now, how to not only attract the best talent, but to keep the best talent.
Mm,
And we often think, oh, it's the pay, it's the benefits. And actually, it's the experience, which
mm,
is the same reason and how we keep our customers as well. And we don't put a lot of thought into the experience, or we just accept that experiences are not going to be ideal. For example, on the first day of work for a new employee, does the computer work? Is it easy to get
mm,
things fixed? Do they know who to go to? That's not always the case. And people are like, this is so frustrating. Is this how the work environment is all the time? And it's not a conscious thing that we want employees to think. It becomes a subconscious, but then it becomes a cultural norm. And
mm.
for any leaders out there that have people that you manage, what are the cultural norms that you may not even realize are holding you back? John, you coach people all the time about these things. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, listen, I'm with you. It's how you onboard somebody into the workplace kind of dictates how long they're going to stick around with you. And
Hmm.
I've been in workplaces where I've seen a not so good onboarding process, and I've also seen people leave in 6 days, believe it or not, from
Oh,
being hired, right? It's so important, and you said you said something really important there, like really letting new people onto your team know what the expectations are, right?
right.
And a lot of times people don't know what they're doing for the first 3 months of their role. Like I know it sounds funny, right? We have a job description, or there's some sort of switcheroo that happens where it's like, yes, we're bringing you in to do all these things, but what we really need you to do is something completely not listed there. So creating and setting expectations is so important. And actually, one of the things I do is I do these resets every few months. The one thing I did differently, and just kind of, and it doesn't matter if it's employees or if it's a community or group, but setting the rules of engagement, right? And it actually is something I do at the beginning of each of my classes. When I start the semester off, we go through and we set expectations. When are you supposed to be here? What does it look like when you're absent? And we go through the rules and we have an agreement in the room around how we're going to operate. Because at the end of the day, it's their experience. Even in a community, the rules, I'm not going to call them rules, but the agreements, actually that's the language I want to use. The agreements are, we're going to do this, we're going to show up this way, and we're going to commit this way. And
Mm,
I'm going to commit and follow through every single week. And I think about that in the workplace where I've seen, departments fail or groups fail, is where the agreements aren't made ahead of time. Because a lot of times the leaders don't even know what the agreements are themselves. So
hmm.
you have to know what that is. And when I was onboarding people, when I was leading teams, we would have everything set up a week before, right? Like whether it's laptops, equipment, because sometimes there's delays and things that happen, ID administration. And the most basic thing, like just having an ID on day one to log into a
Yes.
computer, like, imagine, and I've seen this because earlier on in my career, when we weren't as process oriented, or we didn't have all our things set up in advance, sometimes it would take 2 to 3 weeks before we could log somebody in. And what do you do with somebody for 2 3 weeks, and where is their head going? Like, it's not in the workplace, it's somewhere else, and there's a very good sign, or there's a very good chance that they're not going to stick around, or they're going to go somewhere else.
Well, you
So
mentioned you've seen experiences where people leave after 6 days, and, think about the emotional roller coaster of an employee. They have
mm,
accepted a job, they've gone through the interview process, they've accepted a job, they've heard about your company, and they've chosen you, because remember, it's not just that as a leader, you're choosing the candidate, they're choosing you as an employer, and then in the first 6 days, they're like, "I am not going to be part of this community or this environment or this culture," and
yeah,
they're checking out, and when that happens, you have to ask yourself, did about the process is missing, either clearly articulating expectations, highlighting what the job expectations are, or have I, as a leader, failed to create an environment that is inclusive and welcoming and full of excitement for being part of something bigger than themselves, which is why people want to stay. So
yeah.
that's incredible. And John, you help people get their foot in the door and get the jobs. The zero to hired is your mantra. But what happens when they get in the door and it's not the right fit? What do you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. Well, so they, what's been interesting, there's been this, oh, so there's this new thing now, and it's, I've seen it a few times. So this is why I'm mentioning it. And it hasn't really made its way into any sort of headline. But what's happening is a lot of people are, not a lot, but I've seen a few that have actually not really left their old job, take on a new job, and take vacation for the start of their new role. So, for
Ooh,
example, I have a job today, but I know I have something coming up. So, what I'll do is I'll take vacation for the first week that I'm supposed to start in this new role. I go, and then I determine whether or not I want to stay and give my notice afterwards.
wow.
And
And I just want to highlight that
yeah,
that is a conflict of interest in almost 100% of companies. So we are not saying this is
we're
the
not
right thing to
promoting
do.
that.
We're not
No,
promoting it,
100%.
but this is a known situation, and
Mm,
as an employer, you need to know that that is what is happening, and
potentially, yes.
potentially, and you have to ask those questions, and employers need to make sure that I mean, listen, once you've got a really good employee on your team, you want to keep them just like you want to
Mm,
keep your best customers. So that is that is so important. So, my question, John, is as a people leader, as an employer, how can you roll out the red carpet experience every day for employees?
mm.
And I say this with this context. We are in a place where people are working from home more often. They're feeling disconnected from
Disconnected,
a
yeah.
community. They might not have the clarity on the goals and the goalposts, or they feel like it's moving all the time. So, what as leaders can we do to help people feel that connection to purpose?
Yeah, no, so actually, before we go there, just one more thing. So, one thing
Mm,
to welcome people into the work environment is just introducing them to everybody else on the team, right?
mm,
Having one big group call to say, hey, this is this person and this, like almost, it's almost like you want to start from scratch. You need like an ice breaking activity when somebody new is joining the team. So, you might not necessarily have the red carpet because your environment might be remote, and there's still a lot of organizations out there that are remote, fully like 5 days a week. So because one of the things I hear from people, or the people that I've been working with from a coaching perspective, is I don't know anybody on my team. I haven't been introduced to anybody, and I have to make my way in, and it feels awkward because I'm the new person, and I, so as the leader inside that group, go introduce them to the other members on the team, and even have like a virtual coffee session chat where everybody gets to integrate and chat. And that's the one thing I loved, especially in the middle of COVID when we worked together physically. We would still have these coffee sessions where we would all come in. I'd ask one question, and everybody in the group had to respond to it. And it was a great way to get to know each other, a great way to break the ice and reconnect, even though we weren't necessarily in the room together. And doing something like that on a fairly regular basis over lunch, or during working hours. And I'm not saying to do these, we also used to do these drink sessions, mixers after work virtually online, where we could connect with each other, and everybody would bring their own drink and we would have conversation, we'd ask a question, we create engagement.
mm.
And that is so important, especially if you're not in the workspace. But if you're in the workspace, a simple thing that we used to do that was, it didn't really cost very much, but have like a potluck. Everybody bring their favorite meal, their favorite food into the room, and then we would talk about that. Everybody would have an opportunity to talk about that dish, why it was important, why it was their favorite, and why they were sharing it with the rest of the group. And that generated a lot of conversation, but it also gave us insight into people, right? So
Mm.
of it was, when my mom growing up, this is, one thing she used to make for me all the time. So there, you really get to connect and meet the person. And I think that's the piece that we've lost, right? And that's the piece I coach on quite a bit is, how do you make the human connection with the people around you? And,
Yes.
you start as simple as, what do we have in common? And a lot
Wow.
of times we don't realize, sometimes we're in a room with people and it's like, I have nothing in common with these folks. And you know what? We're going to experience that tomorrow, right? We're going to be in an event with 2,500 or 3,000 people. The one thing I'm going to be looking for is, what do we have in common? What's the one thing that we can kind of leverage and use for conversation? And a lot of times, the only way to find out is by asking those questions. So taking
Absolutely. You're right. We're going to be in a room tomorrow, and both me and John are dedicated to our own personal development, finding other people to inspire us for ideas for conversations to have on the podcast and with all of you and with our coaching clients. And so I'm looking forward to this, but I'm also going to go into it with an intention, John, and me and you talk
Mm,
about the intention, and it's a simple intention. It's I want to meet 5 people,
mm,
and it's not that I just want to meet them and have a tick, but I want to meet them, connect with them on a level of commonality, but also hopefully afterwards have some sort of coffee date or a get to know you session. So it's not just let me add you to my LinkedIn network, but LinkedIn with purpose, and that's
yeah.
that's important, is that we link with purpose.
As you're saying that, Heather, I almost want to challenge us. Is that okay? Can I
Oh,
make a public acclamation that we're going to challenge each
okay.
other tomorrow at this event? So yes, we're going to meet with 5 people, right? So 5 people is what we're targeting, but I think we're going to take it one step further, or at least I am, anyways. Is
Okay.
what's the one thing that they said yes to that transformed their lives?
Oh, I
Oh,
love it.
oh, and for everybody that's listening, whether you're listening live or you're listening to the replay, what's the one thing that you said yes to that's changed your life, right? I put a little guide together. I'm working on something where I talk about five keys or 5 strategies to help transformation, and I share a little bit about my Ironman journey, and I talk about how saying yes to that has really transformed me, right? Like, and here I am today, thinking about, I'm still crazy enough to think that I want to sign up for another one, but I keep looking at it and looking at the calendar for next year to see what's possible. But it really has changed what I think is possible because I've done something that I thought was impossible.
Yes, I love
So,
that. And for any of you that, as soon as John asked that question, like I had a download in my head of, oh, that changed my life. That changed my life. So it might even not be one thing, but
mm,
sometimes it's the smallest decision, then that is a catalyst for all kinds of things. And when you sort of peel back to the origin of a decision, it's pretty amazing what can come to forward. And right away I had a vision of the CN Tower, John, in my
mm,
head. And that's because one of the decisions of my health journey was I made a decision to do the stair climb at the CN Tower. And this, for anybody that lives in Toronto or seen the CN Tower, that's quite a feat. There's
mm.
a lot of stairs. I think it's like 1900. I don't know how
I
many it
don't
is.
know, but it's a lot. It's a
It's a
lot of
lot. And it was one of those things I'm like, I wonder if I can do it. And I'd heard stories that people turn around and, they're not feeling well while they're doing this. And I thought, oh, well, that could be me. And then I said, no, 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 Heather, that the mindset is actually what's going to carry you up there. And then you just take one stair at a
Mhm.
time. And the first time I did it, it was really, really invigorating. And then, of course, my competitive nature kicked in. And the second time I had to beat my first time. But that was the catalyst for, wait a minute, maybe there's other things that I think I can't do or seem a little scary that I probably need to say yes
Mm.
to and step into. So I love that question. What's the one thing that you said yes to that changed your life? And again, it's probably a very, very small decision. And then that was the catalyst. So that
Yeah.
is such a powerful question, John. I love it. We're gonna meet so many more people because I'm just gonna go around asking that question.
So the CN Tower thing is funny that you say that because I was in a session. We talked about that earlier this week, so it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. Um, yeah, it was, that was me too. The transformative. I think they still run it twice a year for the World
Yep.
Wildlife Foundation and for United Way. I think are the 2 events. It is transformative because there is. So what's interesting about that? There is no turning back.
There's no
It's not
turning
like
back.
you can exit left and go to a floor, take the elevator down. Like if you're in it and you're past a certain point, there's no going back. You just can't because the staircase isn't big enough for that, and people coming up, you can't go back down. You can't get halfway and say I'm turning back. You gotta finish. You gotta get
Well,
to the top, and
isn't that the key to every
yeah.
success? Earlier you mentioned that people put one toe into a new job, keep their other job.
Mm,
You're not going to be successful. So if you've ever contemplated doing that, your spidey sense, your intuition is saying that new job isn't the right one
probably
for
not
you.
right.
You should probably just decline the offer. And so the same concept, it's the concept of burn the boats, be all in. You got to be all in on your goals. You got to
Mm,
be all in on your career. You got to be all in on your life. And so think back to that moment that you said yes to something that changed your life, but also what are you going to say yes to? And this is the call to action. What are you going to say yes to this weekend that is going to
mm,
help you be the best version of yourself? And it may be spending more time with the kids. It might be taking an extra long walk with the dog. It may be getting up early enough for the sunrise. But I guarantee you, this one little habit, this one little thing to say yes to is that one thing that your future self 1 year from now is going to thank you for. So
Yeah.
that is your call to action. Say yes to something that you might not have said yes to before listening to our podcast.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And yes. What are you going to say yes to this weekend? We know what we're saying yes to. So we will have updates for you next week, and super excited to share that with all of you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Say Yes Movement podcast. Just remember, when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. Wishing you all a great one. Talk to y'all soon. Take care.